Hello and welcome to another episode of Eat, Smoke, Drink. So today I am going to review something that, well, look, since I started going balls deep and diving head first into this coffee thing, just as I do everything else, especially whiskey and stuff, this name comes up, Gesha or Gesha, depending on who says it, Gesha or Gesha. In a nutshell, Gesha or Gesha, you can easily Google that, but it is a cultivar of coffee that is harder to grow, lower yield, and it is fabled to be an exceptionally fantastic bean, okay? Type of coffee. And you don't get it too often, you don't get it in your normal espresso shops, because I think if you make espresso out of it, you just fuck it up and then you just drown the subtle flavors. So filter format is always going to be the most preferred format for this particular coffee. So anyway, this is Viking coffee by Linarco Rodriguez, natural EF2. So we've gone through EF2 before and natural before, but this is natural and EF2. So it's obviously EF2 has had several stages of anaerobic fermentation and different types of fermentation. Anyway, Linarco Rodriguez, Colombian Gesha, okay, Colombian Gesha. Now the most famous Gesha, from what I've read, the most famous Gesha of recent time is Panama. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Panama. Anyway, when you buy this bottle from Viking, they make it feel so special by putting it in a special bottle, 125 grams. You pay basically double for your normal coffee. That's just obviously reflects the bean. But anyway, let's look at the beans. So the beans are very light brown, as you've seen in the intro, very light brown, and unlike the other beans that we've had, they are a lot more uniform in size. I mean, when I say uniform, there's still obviously weird looking beans in there, but they are the disparity in size is not as much. Okay, they're light brown, so this is definitely a lighter side of the roast, so that should be quite interesting. And then let's start sniffing. So this is a fabled, I don't know why it's fabled, okay? I have no idea. I'm going in it with the only context that I have is that it costs more than the other beans. But I don't know if it's better or not. I have no friggin' clue. I'm not experienced enough to tell, so let's get sniffing. Very unusual bean. There is definitely a funk in there. Now that would be probably from the EF2 and natural process, but there's definitely a funk in there. But not as strong as the anaerobics, the 200-hour anaerobic that I've had, or the honey so far. Not as strong as that. There's a slight greenish flavor in there. I'd say an unripe plum. But that's very interesting. The flavors that I'm getting from this bean is not your quintessential coffee smell. Obviously it's a lighter roast. You can tell by the colors. It's a very light roast. But it's very fruity. Like I said, unripe plum. Cherry powder. You know when you get freeze-dried cherry powder for cooking and baking? It's a dry smell, not a sweet smell. Dry smell, cherry powder, plum powder. A hint of pine resin. Cigar humidor, Spanish red cedar wood, you know, without tobaccos in it. A faint hint of raw cacao. There's a slight floral smell to it. I can't put my finger on it. Almost like a jasmine flower a jasmine flower in the distance. You know, jasmine is, people use jasmine as hedges, and then when they start flowering, do they flower in the spring? I don't even know, I don't give a shit. But yeah, so like, you can kind of smell that. It's got a bit of oolong tea in it, like a toasted oolong tea leaf. Very much so. It says here black tea. I'm not getting the black tea, but I think maybe the oolong tea is the black tea they're referring to. Black tea I associate with your standard English breakfast or Darjeeling, but no, I'm getting oolong. I'm getting a lime rind. A lime rind. And a fruit, a type of fruit. I think I'm going to have to concede. The guava they described is definitely there, but I would actually say like a white, unripe guava, not the sweet red one. No sickly sweetness, more of that tart, powdery, white guava. There's also like a rose water in there. Leathery, burnt sugar, slightly buttery, toasted rice, and I can't escape that funk. There's definitely a funk in that. Not a meaty funk, but definitely a funk, like a almost like that back end of a kimchi. It's the best way I can describe it. Not a pickle, but a ferment, like a fermented vegetable. So that's what I get out of that. Let's smell the brew. Very light on the nose. Also because I think it is a light roast, so it's very light on the nose. This is the first time I'm trying this, by the way. First time with you. Very light on the nose. I'm not getting that quintessential coffee bitters. Definitely very fruity. I'm getting plum, cherry, raspberry jam, orange peel. A hint of lime. Definitely the cedar wood, unburnt tobacco, unburnt cigar tobacco. The oolong tea is definitely there. The tannin of the oolong tea and that fragrance is there. The floral nature is gone from the nose, but it's become much more fruity. Like, we're talking berries, plum, raspberry, blackberry. But not sugary, just the pure fruit itself. There is a leatheriness to it, like a resiny, leathery smell. That's it. Let's sip it. Let's sip it. Wow, that's interesting. Whoa. Wow. On the nose, there's no funk. Well, very little funk. On the nose of the bean is a lot of funk, but on the nose of the brew is not much funk. On the taste, there's a slight funk, very forward funk straight away. Now, a friend told me that this is 10 days from roast when I got it, and you should really wait a little bit more before drinking it, but on the pack it says, you know, best before 1 month. I think it's just a standard shit they have to put in, but obviously different coffee beans have different shelf lives, different shelf life to each other. Yeah, something like that. And there's definitely a greenness to it, right? A greenness to it. Maybe in time I will revisit this again. I won't film that, but maybe in time it will calm down a little bit. Or maybe if I feel like it, I might film a pour over. version. Let's see. But the roast is definitely on the light side. Almost very little bitterness. Very little bitterness. There's a very slight bitterness, and I think that is what he meant by it needs to rest a little bit. But who knows? I'll see. But very little roast characteristics. It's fruity. Orange peel. Orange. Oolong tea is gone, and it's makes way for plum and definitely the berries. That's a prevalent flavor of this, the delicate flavors of the berries. I see why they had to give it a lighter roast, because those flavors could easily disappear with heavier roasting. So it's a very light coffee, not much funk, very fruit driven, very subtle, very delicious. This coffee actually would suit the palate of someone who hasn't had many coffees, although you probably wouldn't want to do that because you're paying big bucks for something, you know, what's the point? You're not really going to appreciate it. Do I appreciate it for what it is? Maybe not yet. Maybe I'll get another bag or another bottle of Gesha, and maybe by then I would have had a few more and I'll appreciate it fully for what it is. It's really good. It's really, really delicious. But is it worth the price? I don't know yet, and I can't give that judgment call. Right now, the price increase is lost on me, right? It's delicious. It's a great coffee, great balance, quite clean, and that's an AeroPress as well. Quite a clean coffee. Not much, not too overly oily, not overly bitter. And it's extremely fruity, a little sweetness, a little tartness, but very fruit driven. But is it worth the double of the price of your other single origin coffee and 6 times the price of every other coffee known to man? I'm not sure yet, because it is a little bit lost on me. And I will admit it, it's a little bit lost on me. My journey is not quite there yet, but I thought I'd get it anyway because I want to get it now and then I want to try it again later. So I will keep this for a while. And let it rest and then revisit it and then just appreciate it over time. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. But in saying that, it is an absolutely delicious coffee, extremely well balanced. I mean, it is actually one of the better ones I've gotten recently, but I can't tell you if it is much different to a good single origin washed bean. Okay, I can't tell you that. Maybe what you're paying for is purely the yield factor of this bean. It's lower yield, which means it automatically becomes rarer, which means it automatically becomes more expensive. Maybe that's that. Not entirely sure, but maybe that's that. And you know what? That's okay. That's okay. Because it's still cheaper per cup than espresso fucking capsules, right? I used to love the espresso capsules, and now I look at it and I'm like, wow. This is supposed to be the upper end of coffee, and it's still cheaper than espresso capsules. Until next time, make sure you eat, smoke, drink. Tell me what you think of the Gesha/Geisha coffees. I would love to know your thought. Until next time, cheers.